"Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea. For so it has been written by the prophets, 'And you, Bethlehem, the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.'" Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out. And there ahead of them went the star that had been seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How do we know there are three wise men? Matthew doesn't tell us, right? Just that a bunch of wise men showed up. It took until the 8th centuries to work out actually what the three gifts were and how many they were. The last time that it was discussed by the early church fathers, they decided there were 12 of these, which made sense, right? Because it was the 12 apostles. And so by the end of the time when this tradition was being worked out, they thought, okay, there were three gifts, so there must have been three wise men. And that's sort of what we've lived with from here on out. So the tradition itself has been in the works for a long time, this tradition of the Magi. And I prefer that to kings because Magi is the Persian word for priest. And these priests were more than likely to be Zoroastrian priests. The Persian word, as I say, for priest is Magi. And they were coming to worship a new king, a new prophet, this child, who would again reveal to the people a new light, the vision of God for the people of Israel. So we have on our tradition here this influence of an Eastern religion that was very important in the time of Jesus' birth. Some 22 years before the Gospel of Matthew was written, Magi from Yemen came to Rome to present gold and frankincense and myrrh to Nero, the Roman emperor. So we see in the story of Matthew this conflation of religious ideas that proclaim that there is this universal cosmic battle between dark and light and between good and evil. And the Zoroastrians based the center of their religious belief on that cosmic battle. And as we go through the scriptures, by the time we get to John, we see this same elemental idea occurring. In John, the light and the dark is very important. And Jesus, by the time of John, is the new light, the true light, the one, the only light. As a kid, I was always fascinated by the fact that one of these magi had dark skin. Because my Christmases were white. My Jesus was white. And so for most of us, right?
So all of a sudden, here are these three men coming to worship Jesus and bringing these incredible gifts. And we really don't know why gold, frankincense, and myrrh. For 5 centuries, people argued over what those three gifts meant. But it fascinated me that this particular one was out of my world of view. And so we lose that idea. We lose that idea in Christianity as we move forward through the centuries, that Eastern religion was absent from Christianity. And the wise men are there to say, well, no. So Matthew is attempting to say to us, this Jesus is not only from the lineage of David, but he is so important that he is worshipped as king by Zoroastrianism, which was the largest and most influential religion of his time. The first 17 verses of Matthew are the lineage of Jesus. It takes 17 verses to link Jesus to Abraham and to King David. So Matthew has this idea that he wants Jesus to be seen in the line of the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah. Very important to the Gospel of Matthew. And it's also then likely why he included the stories of the 3 wise men, of the 3 magi. The question for me is posed in the hymn that we sang in the processional. And that is, after 2,000 years, why is there still strife? Why have we not listened to the angels? Why have we not listened to the prophecy of peace and justice? And the author of the hymn says, you gotta keep hearing the angels sing. You gotta keep seeing and hearing what happened in this mythic, incredibly mythic story of Jesus' birth. The second question I would ask as a result of the wise men's presence is, do we still see the star? Do we still see the star? Or are we reminded of the star only at Christmas in that remarkable Christmas story? Is the star only visible in Bethlehem? Or does the star continue to move and stop over the places where the Christ child is born and where the prophecy continues? I imagine last evening driving by here after a class or something at a coastal or being in the neighborhood and seeing this star come across the sky and stop over St. Anne's. What would that mean? What would that mean to us? Because I believe it does. I believe it does. I think we don't see it. I think we can't believe it. But I believe we're on the same journey as the wise men, of the Magi. And that is to come see that which is so extraordinary and bring such good news that you can't help fall on your knees and give him a gift from Cartier. Or very expensive incense. I mean, not everybody can afford frankincense, you know. That was really high end. So it asks us to say, what is it? What is it we treasure the most that we will offer the one whom this star represents? And of course, you've heard me say it before, I'm often accused of preaching the same sermon 110 times over the years, which is the star stops because the birth is happening in us. The star stops because we are the bearers of the gift of Messiah. It can stop over your house. It can stop over your work. I also believe that it can be seen very frequently if one really, really looks over the building in which the shepherd's table feeds people. I believe it stops over camps on our border with Mexico of immigrant children. who are being thrown back to the wolves over the border. I think the star is there. And we both realize that in those Mexican children, this Messiah is born as well. And that somehow, some way, we're part of this great cosmic challenge. Metaphorically, I'm talking about here. This great cosmic challenge to triumph over what stamps out or snuffs out life and soul. Herod is the metaphor for the forces in life that try to kill our souls, that try to demean us, that try to wage war in the name of peace. Herod is the metaphor for the fear that creates tyranny and violence in our world. So the story is more than a part of this great sort of magical moment of the star over Bethlehem and the visitation of the Magi. The story doesn't stop there. It continues to go on and on. Howard Thurman was the dean of Marsh Chapel at Boston University. And he wrote a piece that I have always appreciated, and some of you may know it as well. But I want to end our time this morning with this reading. It's called The Work of Christmas. And he wrote, "When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, and the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among brothers and sisters, and to make music in the harp." Amen.